Hi, my name is Gloria White. Today is June the 28th, 2024. This video is sponsored by the Heritage Museum of Montgomery County, Texas. And today our guest is Dr. Jody Caldwell. Hi, Dr. Caldwell. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to see you. Hey, were you born in Montgomery County?
No, I didn't get to Montgomery County until 1990.
Okay, so in 1990. So tell us about your childhood and where you were born.
So my parents were going to graduate school in Minnesota, and my mother could not stand the thought of her firstborn baby being born a Yankee. So she came home to Oklahoma to have me. So I was born in Oklahoma and lived there for about 2 weeks, and then went back to Minnesota. But I've been around the Houston area most of my life.
Okay. So your childhood, did you grow up in Minnesota?
Nope. She just came down to have me and then moved back to Texas as soon as she could.
Oh, okay. Okay. So where did y'all move to when you came to Texas?
So I've lived in Pasadena. I've lived in Baytown. I graduated from Baytown Lee High School and have been in Deer Park and all over the place.
Okay. So tell us a little about your childhood growing up.
My father was a hospital administrator, and so he got assigned different hospitals about every 5 years. So I never really had a long-standing place where I lived.
Okay. And what did your mom do?
My mother was an occupational therapist, and my father, the hospital administrator, and she worked in the field of psychiatry.
Okay. So when you were growing up, and so do you remember anything about the different schools you attended and you said Baytown and Pasadena? So talk a little bit about that and how was that?
So I went to Baytown Lee, and that's where I graduated from, and it was fine. I had a 5-year period of time where I was in Iowa before I came to Baytown Lee. So it was a little bit of an adjustment to go from Iowa school system to the Texas school system, but it was fine.
Tell us about the Iowa school. What grades were you in when you were in Iowa? You were younger?
In Iowa, I was 6th grade. Well, actually, the 4th grade to the 9th grade.
4th grade to the 9th grade. And so when you came to Texas, you started high school in Texas. Okay. So was the school small? Was the district small? What was it like?
No, we had a huge high school. So
Okay.
I think my graduating class was 500. So it was a big school.
Okay. And so your mom, both parents worked, and both of them were like in the medical field.
They were in the medical field, but we didn't have any doctors in our family. From a young age, I was probably 5 years old when I started telling everybody I wanted to be a doctor. And of course, they just laughed and patted me on the head and said, sure. So when I was in junior high, I started figuring out, well, you're going to have to find what your gifts are, where your strong suits are. So I started doing business classes. I took shorthand and bookkeeping and data processing in junior high school, and found out that I wasn't suited for any of those fields. And it kept coming back, you need to be a doctor. And so when I was in high school at Baytown, I talked the principal into letting me join a vocational training program while I was taking all my advanced classes. And I trained to be a nurse's aide. And so I was able to work in a hospital in Baytown from the time I was 16 until I was a 3rd-year medical student.
Wow. So at 5 years old, you was telling everybody you want to be a doctor. And so you achieved that. So once you graduated from high school and you went on to...
I went to Texas A&M University and was in the first group of women to live on campus. So kind of being the first woman to go into different territory was not new to me. That was been my whole life story. And then I would drive from Baytown to Texas A&M across 105 and come through this charming town by the name of Conroe. And I would drive past the Sadler Clinic and the doctor's hospital, and I would tell myself, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor in a place like that. And I didn't know that that was exactly where I was going to end up.
So you were driving from Baytown, coming down 105 and going to Texas A&M. And so you said one day you want to do that.
And so I went right through Conroe on my way. So I had some experience driving through Conroe and loved the place. So when I had the chance to come back, it was a real blessing.
So do you have any siblings?
I have two brothers. One is a geologist and one is an accountant. So none of them are in the medical field.
Okay. So once you finished at A&M, tell us about your experience at A&M. Were there very many women, female?
Mm-hmm. We were the first group of women to live on campus, so it was kind of a new thing, and it was mostly men still. My A&M,
Can you tell? Do you remember what year that was?
I graduated in '77.
Okay. So
my counselor told me that I couldn't be a doctor, that it would be a waste of Texas taxpayer dollars, and he would not approve my application to go to medical school. And so I had to go behind his back every single semester because the courses he signed me up for were sabotaging me to keep me from graduating. So I proved him wrong, graduated from college, got into medical school, and then have been practicing almost 40 years now. So
this was a a male professor was telling you that. So you had to really stand up for yourself.
That's true. And it was interesting when my son was going to Texas A&M as a student, all of his advisors in the pre-med, pre-dentistry area were all females. But when I went to school, they were all men, and they were all telling us to get married and make babies. And we would never survive as a physician.
Wow, God.
So,
but you persevered.
I persevered. I pressed on. My medical school class, I went to the University of Texas Medical School in Houston, and they've recently renamed it McGovern Medical School. And there was 150 students in the class, and there were about 20 girls in the class, so a small number of women.
So all the females in the class, that you all stick together?
Not really. We just formed friendships with people that were like-minded. You know, it's pretty rigorous. We were in class from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday for 2 years, and then in the hospitals working long shifts and long hours. So I developed friends, and they weren't really women in my class. They were usually the men.
Okay. But the thing that you had, the barrier you had to cross by being a female, did you have any other females experience anything like that, and to tell you the stories about what they had to do, the hurdles they had to cross to get over?
So we were all bounding over the same hurdles to get into medical school. But once we were in medical school, we really didn't have any kind of barriers. In medical school, they told me I was planning on being a family practice doctor because I wanted to be the person who could take care of everybody. And my medical school told us that family practice doctors were not needed and that we needed to become specialists. And I persevered and pressed on, graduated from medical school, and did a residency in Louisiana in family practice, and then came back to Texas.
So when did you come back from? What year were you in Louisiana? How long did you stay out there doing that?
I stayed in Louisiana until 1985.
1985. So how many years were you out there?
3.
3 years. So what experience was that out there for you?
It was a completely different world. I had come from a Texas environment where a lot of people spoke Spanish, and I didn't. And I was now suddenly in an environment where they were speaking French, and I didn't speak French. And so it was a different cultural experience for me. But it was great training because LSU doesn't have a lot of faculty members, and I was in Baton Rouge. So the residents pretty much were on their own for their training with very little faculty backup. So it was a hands-on learning experience for 3 years.
So you were at a hospital out there, or were you on campus?
I had a hospital.
Hospital.
I had a house and would commute to the hospital. And we worked long hours, sometimes 36 hours working, 12 hours off, and then repeated 36 hours on, 12 hours off. Or we would work for 36 hours and get a couple of, and we never got a day off afterwards. So we were working pretty much 7 days a week.
And so you did that for 3 years in Louisiana.
For 3 years.
So, and then you came to Texas. Once you came to Texas, what did you do?
I went to to San Antonio and started a practice in San Antonio by myself, and then met my current husband and moved to Texas and to Conroe after I got married.
Okay. So you did your first private practice in San Antonio. How long were you in San Antonio?
About 3 years.
3 years. Talk about that. How was that being your first practice and you were there by yourself?
There was the community. I was up in the north part of San Antonio, so there was a big military community, and so they all wanted a woman doctor. So I had a full practice almost immediately, and lots of dedicated patients that loved coming to see me. And so I didn't really have any trouble getting a practice started or getting established. I was welcomed into the medical community, and patients were glad to have me as their doctor. And it wasn't long before I had to close my doors to new patients.
Oh.
So it was a great place.
So, and that's when you met your husband in San Antonio. Tell us about how you guys met.
So we met on a Southwest airline flight coming from Baton Rouge through Houston into San Antonio. And he was living in Houston at the time. And it was a couple of years later that we got together, and it became clear that it was my intent to get married and have a family. Mm-hmm. And I moved here with that in mind. So I left my existing practice and came to Conroe and started all over again.
Okay. And so how long did you all date before you all married?
We dated about a year.
A year. Okay.
But I was older. I was very old by the time we started meeting. So I kind of knew what I was looking for in a husband, and it became clear that this was the man that God had sent to me. And so we moved here and got established. And I had met Ken Davis, who was a family practice doctor in Conroe, years ago at one of the medical association meetings. And when I found out I was coming this way, I reached out to him, and he told me that he had a position in his practice and would welcome me to come join him. So that's how I found out about the practice that I joined, coming from San Antonio.
Okay, so you came here. What year did you come to Conroe?
1990.
1990. So when you came to Conroe, you was
I
working
joined
with
Conroe Family Practice.
Okay.
And it was Dr. Carroll, Dr. Davis, Dr. Caperton, Dr. Martin, and Dr. Baker.
Okay. And so where your office was? Your office located
on Fraser.
North Fraser Street.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay.
And then it's very difficult to have a practice without a bunch of other doctors and administrators and things. So we joined the Sadler Clinic, and I moved over to the Sadler Clinic with my existing practice partners. So we continued to work together, and then have joined a couple other groups. We went to a group called Greater Houston Physicians Association, and then St. Luke's, Baylor St. Luke's Medical. And all of us stayed together.
Wow.
Throughout all those years.
Okay.
Dr. Carroll retired pretty soon after I joined the practice.
Okay. I know you were one of, I think, maybe the second female doctor that was in Montgomery County to my knowledge. Do you remember
that? I was
the
first family practice doctor to join. And it was interesting, when I came to the practice, the staff at the front said, "There's some ladies up front that want to meet you." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, they just want to know what a woman doctor looks like. So they want you to just come up here so they can see what one looks like." So I was quite a novelty when I came to Conroe.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Did you get any pushback from guys when they found out you were a female doctor? You experienced anything like that?
My colleagues in the group, the family practice doctors that I worked with, were terrific, but most of the doctors that I worked with had stay-at-home wives, and so they didn't understand the concept of the stress that a woman has working a full-time practice and having pregnancies and children and a husband to take care of. So they really didn't understand the stresses that I was dealing with.
So did you have a support team or other female doctors in the area that you could?
No, not at all. We were too busy trying to get through our day and see our patients and then tuck our babies into bed. So there really wasn't a group of women doctors that got together at all. I was on the board of directors at the Sadler Clinic, and I was the only woman at the Sadler Clinic at the time. So
This was in the 90s.
Mhm.
Do you remember when other female physicians started coming in?
I don't know. I could give you a time, but they started coming in quickly after that. But I was the only one for a long time.
Only one. So you knew at 5 you wanted to be a doctor, and you knew that the hurdles that you had to cross, because you had in your mind, and like when you were in middle school, you said this one professor, you had to go around the back so you can get into medical school. So you are a fighter, and you are a trailblazer too. And so I know that had to be daunting for you during that time, and then you being a mother, and then you were a doctor, and you was married and stuff like that. So can you just, what did you do? I mean, how did you get through all of that? I know you probably prayed through all of that, and because you didn't have a group of female doctors, like a support group in the area, in the county.
I didn't have I wasn't really we didn't socialize with other doctors because many of the other doctors' wives didn't know how to communicate with me since I wasn't a stay-at-home housewife raising a family like they were. And so I developed a social network through my church.
Mm-hmm.
So it was through our Sunday school class that I started getting women friends that I could do. And then with Bible studies with women in the community, I started forming my network of female friends. And then eventually, as the kids got older, we were in booster clubs for the schools, and so I found friends through booster club moms that were serving together.
Wow. Yeah.
So most of my friends have not been in the medical community; they've been outside the medical community.
Okay. And so I know you worked in several facilities in the area, and you did your name. Which facility did you stay at the longest before you moved? I know you said Sadler Clinic.
It was probably the Sadler Clinic.
Sadler Clinic. Okay.
Yeah.
And I understand. I know the Sadler Clinic, they just closed down like during their time. So how did you handle that when the clinic closed? How did your practice handle that?
There were some. Most of the family practice doctors left the Sadler Clinic and at one time, and I went in that group because I wasn't able to make a living doing what I was doing. So the family practice doctors that left Sadler Clinic formed their own group, and but I stayed with my core group, Dr. Baker, Dr. Davis, Dr. Caperton, and Dr. Martin, and we stayed together throughout all of it. And we just took care of our patients and assisted each other and supported each other. So it didn't matter what group I was in, I still had the same patients and the same doctors around me. So it really wasn't a change other than administrative and paperwork and things.
Did you ever work at the doctor's hospital here in Conroe?
I did. I had privileges at the doctor's hospital when I first moved here, and then soon after that, the doctor's hospital closed, and so I was just at the Conroe Hospital.
Okay. So, what local organizations are you involved in the area?
I'm active in a Bible study, a ladies' Bible study that meets in my home on Wednesday nights, and I cycle for exercise.
Stationary?
No. We use hybrid bikes. We're not road bike warriors because I'm much older. And so there's a network of friends that gets together and we'll bike 20 or 30 miles on a weekend day. And so that's been one of my big outlets. I've had to stay in shape and work out and go to the gym, but cycling is kind of one of my loves. So I've been able to maintain that over the last many years. So that's where we can socialize, and we frankly cycle to eat. So we finish our 30 miles and then join each other for lunch or whatever.
So do y'all, I guess you have a route you go to, you're all around the city? Do you have certain places you go when you cycle?
Yeah, it's getting more and more dangerous to cycle on the roads. And as the city of Conroe starts building roads that have curbs on them, there's no place for cyclists. So we cycle when it's not very hot around the industrial park. And so that area has been wonderful because there's not a lot of traffic on the weekends over by the airport. Or we go to the Spring Creek Greenway in the summer where it's a shaded, wooded, protected cycle trail that's 33 miles long.
So your kids, you say you had
I have 3 children.
3 kids. Are they married and unmarried?
My daughter is a urologist in Houston, and I have a son in Friendswood who's married with 3 children, and he is working in the computer industry. And then I have a son in Oklahoma City who's married with 1 baby, and he's a land manager and has a bunch of oil wells.
Okay.
So lots of differences.
So your daughter is the one that went into the medical field. Okay. Oh, okay. So
she decided not to do primary care. She wanted to specialize.
Oh, she wants to specialize.
So she is a surgeon and a urologist.
Okay. So I know you switched from you're not a family practitioner anymore. You made a change.
I was finding it difficult to work within the insurance model because the insurance companies and Medicare are starting to restrict what doctors can and can't do in their practices, and they're getting the practice of medicine into more of a template format. And I wanted to treat each one of my patients as an individual and address their individual needs and not just, meet certain metrics. And so I was working in the insurance model for a very long time and finally decided to go out on my own and give up all insurance just so I could take care of patients and do it in a way that I was comfortable with without any kind of restrictions from somebody.
So explain us, because you're Transmed Health and Wellness. Tell us exactly about that.
So I'm considered a functional medicine doctor, which means that I'm interested in identifying underlying causes of diseases instead of just finding the disease and treating it with a medication or a drug. I'm much more interested in incorporating lifestyle, diet, and other kinds of things that can get to the underlying reason that you become ill. And so I do a lot of hormone replacement therapy. I do a lot of thyroid disease. I do a lot of gastrointestinal problems. And my patients that typically come to see me are a lot more interested in their own health and maintaining their own health and taking responsibility for their own health, which is great because I feel like I'm their consultant to come to when they're having a problem and not the doctor standing on a pedestal dictating what they're supposed to do. So it's much more of a collegial type of practice.
So you made the decision upon your own because the insurance, because of the things in the insurance industry were changing?
Most people don't go cash only in the middle of a pandemic with a recession when they're 65 and start a new practice. But I did, and God has blessed me, and I have patients that are following me, and I still have a good full practice.
Okay, so it's your practice here. Where's your practice located?
It's on the Loop, South Loop 336 in the Transmed building, and it's a lovely place. Dr. Martin retired from family practice, and after practicing with me for 35 years, he came over into the same building where I am and is doing FAA physicals. So the doctors that we work together, the 5 of us, for a long time, and we still maintain those relationships.
I know when you came in, you said in 1990 you was a family practitioner, and you were the first female, but I think it was another lady. I might have been.
Dr. Linda Cecil was a OB-GYN doctor, and so she was here before I was. But I was the first one to do primary care.
Primary care. So So how you talking about how it's different being a family practitioner than being a family? I mean, then with your transmed
In the
health and
functional medicine.
in the functional medicine, yeah.
Yeah.
And so how do when people come to you, you got patients coming to you because they were looking for something different. So walk us through that. If I came to you and had a problem and I said, okay, I'm tired of taking these pills. How can I get off these pills? I need some help because they're not making me feel good. So explain a little bit about that.
So I first have to get some history as to when you started having problems, and we can go back all the way to infancy. But I need to get an idea of what your history is. But then I also am asking questions as I'm pursuing that. Why are you sick? And what is it that is giving out? And there are some instances where it's genetic, but many times it's lifestyle or diet or other choices that are made. So every time I see a patient for an underlying problem, I'm always asking, why do we have this problem? And what can I do to shore up the body? Our bodies are designed to run, we are fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and our bodies are designed to heal themselves. So what is causing that breakdown in the body, and what can I do, and what can the patient do to work on repairing that and getting the body running more efficiently and staying healthy.
So what do you do like for fun? Any kind of hobby? You have any particular hobbies like to do? You any traveling, anything like that?
So I travel. I love travel, and have been working. I got together with another couple, and we decided that we were going to go to Europe 2 weeks out of the year, every year until we couldn't. There's going to come a time at our age where we can't. So I'm still active and healthy enough that I can travel and go places and do things. So I travel as often as I can, and will continue to do that until I can't.
Okay. What are some of the things that you love about the county that you can tell us about? Since you've been here, you came in like in the 90s.
So Montgomery County has a long history, and there's still a lot of people in Montgomery County that have been here their whole lives. And so I get an opportunity to interface with them and learn about the history, and that's been wonderful. I've been given the opportunity to serve in assisting the Salvation Army in their Dalty every year. But because I work full-time, and some would say more than full-time, I'm kind of limited in some of the things that I can do to give back.
So do you have a goal that you think, okay, this is going to be my last year, I'm going to be retiring this year? Have you thought about, have you looked up and see when you want to retire? You're going to continue to work as long as you want to?
No, I'm going to work as long as I can benefit my patients and feel good doing it. Okay. So I'm going to go until I can't go anymore, or until I'm not able to help my patients achieve their goals. So I don't have retirement on the schedule, and I'm sure the pre-med advisor that told me I would never
do you remember that person's name?
Is long dead, but I'm not doing it to spite him, but I'm proving that you can educate a woman doctor, and she can be a vital part of the community and contribute to the medical care of the people.
Yeah, so during that time, I'm glad you were strong, but you had a strong will. At 5, you knew what you want to be, and so now you're doing this transmed health and wellness, and you're still vibrant, and you're still in the community. You've been here, I think I met you in like 1990. Early 1990s when I was working, and I was excited you were a female doctor, because I had never went to a female doctor before, and so that was really exciting for me, and it's a pleasure that I'm able to do this interview with you on today. And one question I'd like to ask you, maybe it's something I hadn't asked you, or something you would like to share with the audience that we hadn't talked about, or something you would like for them to know about you.
No, I don't think there's anything in particular. It's just that we are given inalienable gifts by God, and God gave me the ability to be a physician, and I've used those gifts in serving the community. And I think every one of us needs to find what gifts we have and figure out how to use those gifts in the service of others.
I just thought of a question when you answered that. Do you go speak to like groups of, young ladies or anything like that? If we get the opportunity to do something like that?
I will go to speak and talk to community, and because part of my job as a physician is to educate people to take better care of themselves. And there's so much conflicting information on the internet with what is right, what is wrong, and it's difficult for somebody without a medical training or a scientific background to be able to ferret what is true and what isn't true. And so sometimes just giving a talk can help to clarify some concerns that different groups have. So yeah, I didn't speak to the community for a long time because they all wanted to come see me and I didn't have any openings in my practice. So I'm now at that age where I have a nurse practitioner who is like-minded and wants to help patients the same way I do. So yeah, we will go out into the community and talk with the idea of educating the people how to take good care of themselves and make good health choices.
Okay. All right, Dr. Caldwell.
So
Thank you so much. May God bless you. May God keep you in all you do.
thank you.
God bless you.